Have you ever noticed that your priorities start to shift as you get older? The things that once felt essential, like maintaining a large circle of friends, may not hold the same importance anymore. And here's the truth: you don't actually need friends after 70. That might sound surprising at first, but when you take a closer look, you'll see why embracing independence and focusing on your own well-being can be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. In this video, we're going to explore 6 reasons why friendships aren't as necessary in your later years as they once were. We'll uncover how your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health can improve when you stop worrying about maintaining friendships that no longer serve you. This isn't about loneliness. It's about living life on your own terms, free from the unnecessary expectations and obligations that often come with social ties. Stay tuned until the end, because you may find that letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships isn't just liberating. It might just change the way you see yourself and your later years for the better. Now, let's get started. 1. That you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. As you reach your 70s, one of the most liberating realizations is that you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. In your younger years, friendships often revolved around social validation, fitting in, impressing colleagues, maintaining status, or being part of a certain circle. Whether it was professional relationships built for networking, social friendships formed out of convenience, or even personal connections based on mutual benefit, there was always an underlying pressure to be seen, included, and accepted. But by the time you reach this stage in life, you've already built your legacy. You've lived through decades of experiences, weathered life's ups and downs, and gained wisdom that only time can provide. The opinions of others no longer hold the weight they once did because you've realized something profound. Your worth is not determined by how many friends you have, how often you're invited out, or how many people validate your choices. Take Harold, for example. A man in his early 70s, Harold spent most of his life surrounded by people, colleagues, acquaintances, and so-called friends. But when he retired, he quickly realized that many of these friendships were built on circumstances rather than genuine connection. At first, he felt the urge to keep those ties alive, reaching out and trying to maintain relationships that were already fading. Then, it hit him: why put effort into friendships that had never truly been meaningful? Instead of chasing people who didn't reciprocate, he turned his focus inward. He rediscovered hobbies, embraced solitude, and most importantly, stopped caring about whether others approved of his choices. The moment he let go of the pressure to maintain friendships for validation, he felt a newfound sense of freedom. No more forced conversations, no more unnecessary obligations, just a life lived on his own terms. And that's the truth. At this stage in life, you don't need a social circle to define your worth. The only approval that truly matters is your own. 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you grow older, you begin to realize that peace becomes far more valuable than socializing. In your younger years, being around people might have felt essential. The gatherings, the conversations, the constant social interactions all seemed like proof of a well-lived life. But as time passes, something shifts. You start craving something deeper, something quieter, something that allows you to truly be at ease. It's not that friendships are bad, but they come with responsibilities: returning calls, accepting invitations, keeping up with conversations that may no longer interest you. Many people maintain these social ties out of habit rather than genuine enjoyment, and before they know it, their time is consumed by obligations that no longer bring them joy. Margaret, a 74-year-old woman who once had an active social life, experienced this shift firsthand. For years, she was the kind of person who always had a full calendar, lunches with friends, group calls, holiday gatherings. But over time, she noticed something. The conversations felt repetitive, The same stories were being told over and over, and some friends only seemed to call when they needed someone to listen to their complaints. What once felt like companionship now felt like a routine, draining rather than fulfilling. One day, Margaret made a decision. She would stop forcing herself to engage in social interactions that no longer brought her joy. She began declining invitations she wasn't excited about, stopped answering calls out of obligation, and instead embraced solitude. She took long walks, spent more time in nature, and finally read the books she had been meaning to for years. What she discovered was eye-opening. Solitude wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. Without the pressure to maintain social ties that had become exhausting, she felt lighter, calmer, and more in control of her own time. And that's the beauty of this stage in life. You no longer have to fill your days with noise just to feel connected. You can choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos, and in doing so, you may find that life becomes even richer in ways you never expected. 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest lessons that life teaches you is that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. By the time you reach 70, you've likely seen friendships come and go, some fading naturally, others ending with disappointment. You've experienced relationships where you gave more than you received, where you checked in on people who never bothered to do the same, where you were there for others in their difficult moments, only to find yourself alone when you needed support. It's a painful reality, but one that brings a powerful realization. Fewer friendships don't just mean fewer social obligations, they also mean fewer disappointments. William, a 78-year-old man, learned this firsthand. Throughout his life, he believed in the importance of keeping friendships alive, always making the effort to stay in touch. He called, he visited, he cared. But over time, he began to notice something. Many of his so-called friends didn't reciprocate. They were too busy, too distracted, or simply uninterested in maintaining the connection. At first, it stung. He questioned himself, wondering if he had done something wrong. But then, he had a realization. He wasn't the one who had changed. He had simply stopped tolerating one-sided relationships. Instead of holding on to friendships that felt like work, he made the choice to step back. And the result? A life free of unnecessary disappointment. He no longer felt the sting of unmet expectations or the frustration of unanswered calls. Instead, he prioritized only the relationships that truly mattered, the ones that were effortless, genuine, and mutual. This is a lesson that comes with age. When you stop chasing after people who don't value your presence, you make room for the most important person in your life, yourself. Letting go of superficial friendships doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means choosing quality over quantity, peace over frustration, and freeing yourself from the cycle of disappointment. At this stage in life, you don't need a long list of friends to feel fulfilled. You just need to let go of the ones who were never truly there in the first place. For that, your time becomes more precious. As you grow older, you begin to understand that time is the most valuable resource you have. In your younger years, it may have felt like there was always more of it, more time to spend with friends, more time to invest in social circles, more time to worry about who was in your life and who wasn't. But by the time you reach 70, your perspective shifts. You realize that every hour, every day, every moment is precious, and how you choose to spend it matters more than ever. Friendships, as fulfilling as they can be, also require time and effort, calls to make, visits to schedule, plans to keep. While some connections are worth maintaining, many are simply habits carried from the past, relationships kept alive out of obligation rather than genuine enjoyment. Richard, a man in his early 80s, once thrived in a busy social life filled with dinner parties, group outings, and constant phone calls. For years, He equated staying socially active with staying fulfilled. But over time, something changed. The long conversations that once felt enjoyable started to feel exhausting. The gatherings that once excited him began to feel like burdens. One day, as he sat through yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, he realized something. He didn't want to spend his time this way anymore. So he made a change. He stopped saying yes out of habit and started saying no when he didn't feel like going out. Instead of spending hours catching up on gossip or listening to complaints, he dedicated his time to things that truly brought him joy: reading, walking, learning new things, and simply enjoying the peace of his own company. And the surprising part? He didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever because he was spending his time in ways that mattered to him, not in ways that others expected. At this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to use it however you choose, and that, more than anything, is true freedom. 5. True companionship comes from within. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that happiness depends on having a large circle of friends. Society teaches us that being social is the key to fulfillment and that loneliness is something to be feared. But the truth is, the most important companionship you can have is the one you build with yourself. By the time you reach 70, you've spent decades learning, growing, and evolving. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could, and with that self-awareness comes an incredible realization: you are enough. Eleanor, a 76-year-old woman, once believed that staying socially active was necessary to feel fulfilled. She constantly made plans, checked in on friends, and filled her days with activity. Yet despite being surrounded by people, she often felt drained rather than uplifted. She started to notice that many of her friendships were based on routine rather than genuine connection. Worse, she found herself adjusting her personality to fit into conversations, avoiding certain topics to keep the peace, and going along with social expectations just to avoid feeling left out. Then one day, she stopped. She decided to spend time with herself the way she would with a dear friend, doing things she truly loved, listening to her own thoughts, and embracing her own company. She took long walks without feeling the need to call anyone. She went to cafes with a book instead of forcing small talk. She spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life rather than worrying about maintaining friendships out of obligation. And to her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than she had in years. That's what many people don't realize. True companionship isn't about how many people you have around you. It's about how comfortable you are with yourself. When you stop relying on others for entertainment, validation, or conversation, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. The best company you can ever have is already with you, and when you embrace that, you realize you were never truly alone in the first place. 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most powerful things you can do after 70 is let go. Let go of friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the belief that your social circle defines your worth. And let go of the fear that being alone means being lonely. Many people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer add real value to their lives. They accept invitations they don't enjoy, answer calls out of obligation, and keep up appearances simply because it's what they've always done. But what if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to release friendships that feel more like work than fulfillment? James, a man in his late 70s, once believed that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He made an effort to keep in touch with old friends, even when those friendships had become distant and superficial. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day, he had a realization: he wasn't enjoying it. The conversations felt repetitive, the gatherings felt like routines, and deep down, he felt more exhausted than connected. So, he made a choice. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt meaningful and instead started prioritizing what truly mattered. He spent more time outdoors, focused on his health, learned new things, and embraced the freedom that came with not having to meet anyone's expectations. And in doing so, he discovered something incredible. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. Letting go doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. It means recognizing that happiness isn't about how many people you have around you, but about how aligned you are with the life you want to live. Once you give yourself permission to let go, life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never expected. And at this stage in life, that kind of freedom is the greatest gift you can give yourself. As you move through your later years, the idea that you don't need friends after 70 isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. It's about letting go of unnecessary obligations, choosing peace over pressure, and embracing a life that truly reflects what makes you happy. Too often, people maintain friendships out of habit, fearing that stepping back will leave them feeling lonely. But in reality, it opens the door to something far more valuable: time, fulfillment, and a deeper connection with yourself. When you no longer feel the need to keep up appearances or maintain relationships that drain rather than uplift you, life becomes lighter. You gain the ability to spend your days on your own terms, pursuing what brings you joy instead of what others expect. True happiness doesn't come from a long list of acquaintances, but from the peace of knowing you are enough, just as you are. And that is the greatest realization of all. As we age, one of the greatest lessons we learn is that true fulfillment comes not from the number of friends we have, but from the quality of our time, our peace of mind, and our relationship with ourselves. In youth, we chase social connections, seeking validation and approval, but with age comes the wisdom to see that our worth is not measured by external recognition. Letting go of friendships that no longer bring joy is not an act of loneliness. It is an act of self-respect. It is choosing to spend your time in ways that nurture your soul rather than drain it. Peace becomes more valuable than forced conversations, and solitude transforms into an opportunity for self-discovery rather than isolation. The most meaningful companionship is the one you cultivate with yourself, embracing the freedom to live on your own terms. When you stop seeking fulfillment from others and instead find it within, life becomes lighter, simpler, and infinitely more rewarding. Have you ever left someone's home feeling more exhausted than when you arrived? As we get older, how we spend our time, and more importantly, who we spend it with, becomes increasingly significant. The truth is, certain visits aren't just a waste of time. They can drain your energy, disrupt your peace of mind, and even take a toll on your emotional well-being. The problem is, we often don't realize this until it's too late. In this video, we're going to discuss 4 types of people whose homes you should avoid visiting after 65, no matter how much free time you have. Whether it's out of habit, obligation, or a misplaced sense of politeness, many of us continue showing up at these homes without recognizing the toll it takes on our mental and emotional state. Today, we're breaking it all down so you can make better choices about where, and with whom, you spend your time. Stay tuned until the end because understanding who to avoid is just as important as knowing who to keep close. These 4 people might seem harmless, but their company could be quietly chipping away at your happiness. By the time you realize it, the damage is already done. However, once you recognize these patterns, you'll have the power to protect your energy, set healthy boundaries, and spend your golden years with people who genuinely uplift you. Now, let's get started. 1. The chronic complainer. Some people never seem to have a good day. No matter what's happening around them, they'll find something to complain about: their health, the economy, their family, or just life in general. These chronic complainers don't just express occasional frustration. Negativity has become their default state of mind. You know the type. You walk into their home, and before you even sit down, you're met with a sigh, a grievance, or a list of things that have gone wrong. At first, it might seem harmless, just small talk about the weather or a restless night, but soon, the conversation spirals into an endless loop of complaints about how unfair life is. The real danger is that negativity is contagious. You might visit them feeling fine, but by the time you leave, their frustrations have seeped into your own mindset. It's not just a conversation, it's an emotional burden they place on your shoulders. And the more time you spend around them, the heavier that burden becomes. You'll notice that no matter how much advice you offer, nothing ever changes. They don't want solutions. They want an audience. Their problems are never resolved, and instead of looking for ways to improve their situation, they dwell on everything that's wrong. If you try shifting the conversation to something positive, they'll dismiss it, diminish it, or turn it into another complaint. And over time, their negativity starts influencing how you see the world. You might find yourself carrying their hopelessness, questioning your own optimism, or even dreading the next visit. After 65, your time is too precious to spend absorbing someone else's never-ending dissatisfaction. While it's kind to lend a listening ear, kindness doesn't mean sacrificing your own peace of mind. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of someone else's unwillingness to seek happiness. Protect your energy, set boundaries, and prioritize relationships that uplift and inspire you rather than drain you. 2. The manipulative user. Not everyone who welcomes you into their home does so out of genuine affection. Some do it because they see you as a resource. These manipulative users don't value your company. They value what you can do for them. At first, it may seem like small favors, a little help with a chore, a quick errand, but soon, a pattern emerges. You notice that they rarely invite you over just to chat or check in on how you're doing. Instead, every visit comes with an expectation, a subtle request that slowly turns into an obligation. What makes these people so difficult to spot at first is their ability to disguise their intentions. They don't outright demand help. Instead, they weave guilt, flattery, or even emotional distress into the conversation. "I don't know what I'd do without you," they'll say, or "You're the only one who understands." Before you know it, you're fixing their appliances, driving them to appointments, or giving up your free time to meet their needs, while they give nothing in return. These relationships are not built on mutual respect, and that's the key difference between real friendships and manipulative ones. A true friendship is balanced. Both people give and take, offering support in times of need. But with a manipulative user, the balance is always off. You give, they take. And when you try to say no, that's when their true nature reveals itself. They might guilt trip you, act disappointed, or even become angry, making you feel as if you're the one being selfish. But ask yourself this: if the situation were reversed, would they drop everything to help you the way you do for them? If the answer is no, then you're not in a friendship, you're in a one-sided arrangement. After 65, your time is valuable, and spending it with those who appreciate and respect you is essential. Don't waste it on people who only call when they need something. Set boundaries, protect your energy, and invest in relationships that bring you joy, not exhaustion. 3. The drama magnet. Some people don't just experience drama, they create it. No matter what's happening in their lives, there's always a feud, a betrayal, or a crisis unfolding, and if you spend enough time around them, you'll find yourself caught in their endless cycle of chaos. Drama magnets thrive on conflict, and their home is never a place of peace. You might visit expecting a friendly chat, only to be pulled into their latest dispute, a neighbor who wronged them, a family member who betrayed them, or an old grudge they just can't let go of. The problem with these people is that they don't just want someone to listen, they want you to take sides. They'll present their version of events, exaggerate details, and expect you to validate their outrage. And if you try to stay neutral, that's not an option. They'll push, test, and manipulate until you're forced to agree with them. And once you do, they reward you with more gossip, more exclusive details, drawing you further into their web of drama. But what happens when you refuse to engage? That's when they turn against you. If you don't support their grievances, you might suddenly find yourself as their next target. That's the nature of drama magnets. Everyone around them eventually gets pulled into their mess. The worst part is, they mistake this constant turmoil for passion, for excitement, for the way life is supposed to be. But real relationships don't function this way. True friends don't put you in uncomfortable situations, pressure you to take sides, or make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. If someone's home feels more like a battlefield than a place of comfort, it's time to step away. After 65, your peace is priceless, and you have no obligation to carry the emotional burdens of others. Instead, surround yourself with people who bring stability and joy, not those who treat you like an audience for their never-ending drama. Protect your energy, set boundaries, and choose peace over chaos. For the negative nostalgic. Some people live in the past, not in a way that brings wisdom or warmth, but in a way that traps them in bitterness and regret. These negative nostalgics don't just reminisce about old memories, they dwell on them, reliving disappointments, betrayals, and lost opportunities over and over again. When you visit their home, the conversation always circles back to what went wrong, who mistreated them, how life was unfair, or how things will never be as good as they once were. It doesn't matter how much time has passed or how many good things they still have in their life today, nothing in the present seems to matter. Their focus is always on what they've lost, not what remains. At first, it might seem harmless. After all, we all enjoy reflecting on the past from time to time. But with the negative nostalgic, it's never just a memory, it's a grievance, a wound that never heals, a story retold with more resentment each time. The danger is that their perspective can slowly seep into your own. Have you ever noticed that after spending time with certain people, you start to see the world the way they do? That's the risk of keeping company with someone who fixates on the past. Without realizing it, you might find yourself dwelling on your own regrets, questioning your own choices, and adopting their hopeless outlook. And soon, the things you once looked forward to may start to feel less meaningful, as if life has already passed you by. But the truth is, life still has much to offer, and there are always new experiences to embrace. The best days are not necessarily behind you, unless you choose to believe they are. After 65, your time should be spent with people who inspire you to appreciate the present, not those who drag you backward. Protect your mindset, limit exposure to those who only see what's been lost, and invest in relationships that help you move forward. Life isn't over, there's still so much to enjoy, if you surround yourself with the right people. As we grow older, one of the greatest lessons we learn is that time and energy are our most precious resources. Who we choose to spend them on determines the quality of our lives. Some relationships uplift us, bringing joy, peace, and a sense of belonging, while others leave us drained, burdened, and questioning our own happiness. The key to a fulfilling life after 65 is setting boundaries, learning to walk away from those who thrive on negativity, manipulation, drama, or regret. It's not about abandoning people, but about recognizing that you are not responsible for carrying their burdens at the expense of your own well-being. Happiness isn't found in fixing others. It's found in choosing the company of those who value and respect you. The past is gone, the present is yours, and the future still holds possibilities. Protect your peace, invest in relationships that bring you joy, and live each day with purpose and gratitude.